Welcome back to Eat the Fucking Food. We have a wonderful guest on today. Her name is Terry Tateossian. You might know her as Your Midlife Bestie. You can find her on Instagram at How Good Can It Get? And let me tell you, if there's anyone who knows how good it can get, it is Terry. About 13 years ago, the wheels came off for her. Stress at work became overwhelming. She's raising children. She knew how to take care of everyone but herself. And since then, she has done the things you need to do to become a healthy, thriving midlife woman. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. Terry's here to share the 5 ways that she made her life better. We go through everything from addiction to regulating your nervous system to sleep, nutrition, and working out. You do not want to miss this. And one of the things Terry also touches on is that she found a coach that helped her finally learn how to undiet herself. And if you're someone who feels you need the same thing, I want to let you know that I am here for you. The next round of Game On Nutrition starts on April 6th. You can go to my website to check out what that entails at KristinCollinsHealthCoaching.com. I only take a small number of women to work with because when you sign up to work with me, you work with me, and there's only one of me. We go into it all. You learn how to eat up to your needs. You stop being scared of food. I tell you exactly why balanced plates are the way to go and why severely cutting calories is probably the reason you haven't been sustainable in your goals in the past. Now let's get to our fantastic interview with Terry. Terry Tateossian, thank you so much for coming on Eat the Fucking Food. It's so nice to meet you in person.
Thank you, Kristin. I appreciate it. And I love the name of your podcast.
Oh my God, thank you so much. And I love the name of your Instagram feed. How good can it get? How did you come up with that name?
Oh my gosh, through a lot of trial and error, a lot of brainwashing myself that I could get out of the phase that I found myself in at the age of 37, I would say.
Okay.
I'm about to turn 50 this year. So
Nice.
It's been a long way. Yes.
Wonderful. And I love it because, you know, I've had women come to me. I'm 54. And I got to say, the last 4 years have been some of the best years of my life. There was something very clarifying turning 50. Maybe, you know, you finally realize what's important, what's not, what are you willing to do to get the life you want, and kind of all the garbage kind of, you know, fades away, so to speak. Not that things necessarily become easier, but it really can get good. So I loved when I saw that your Instagram was how good it can get. Can it get? I was like, yes, it can get so good. But you touched on, you've gone through some stuff in the last decade or so. Can you tell us your story? Because it's fascinating and I really want the listeners to hear it.
Yeah. So at the age of 37, I kept asking myself, how much worse can it get?
Yeah.
And so just to give everybody a little bit of a background, so I'm an entrepreneur. So I started my entrepreneur journey at the age of 25, actually. I worked on a bunch of different platforms like what's now considered Facebook. And back then it was MySpace, Friendster.
Oh my God, MySpace.
Yes. And so that's what I went to school for computer engineering and computer science. And at the age of 25, I started working on my own kind of a MySpace. That's when, you know, everything just started kind of rolling. And if you know any entrepreneurs, or if you're an entrepreneur yourself, you know the schedule. You know it's like 24/7. You're working 16, 18-hour days. You're not sleeping. But at the age of 25, it doesn't really matter.
You have this boundless energy that you're not even aware of until it starts to go away.
Exactly. And then at 30, I started a family. 35, I had my son. And then I just kept gaining weight, right? I kept gaining weight because my priority was not taking care of myself. I didn't even know how to take care of myself. I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't know about perimenopause. I didn't know about any of that stuff. I knew what I did for work, and and taking care of my kids, which I can't even say I knew much about either, right? So we're all beginners in that particular field.
Absolutely. I think the difference between, I have 3 boys and they're all in their 20s now, but my oldest, the things that I'm like, it has to be done this way, it has to be this, to the third one who came 6 years, later, where I was like, okay, this matters and this matters. This doesn't so much. We learn on the job, just like we learn when perimenopause hits. And hopefully, I love that you're out talking about it, because we're going to make it easier for some women coming behind us than what we went through.
And so I had gained 80 pounds in this period of time. And just for reference sake, I'm 5'3", so not much place for it to go, right? So a lot of body fat. And I remember once I did a body scan, it said I was almost 48% body fat at 210 pounds. And so I tried, right? I tried, just like all of us try all these things we hear about in the media. I did all the diets. I tried Atkins, keto, South Beach, fruitarian, juice cleanses. I was convinced I was toxic, right? I had to detox. I was inflamed. There was something wrong with me, right? That's why all these things were happening. But I was unsuccessful, because every time I succeeded with a diet, it came back with a vengeance. So the weight always came back. And I couldn't understand, like, what, there's all these people are succeeding in their diets and it works for everybody except for me. And so it was this big poo-poo party, right? So I kept constantly thinking, like, how much worse can this get? I mean, geez, I just lost 30 pounds, but I gained 50 back 3 months after I stopped. And so this whole yo-yo thing was going on. I was getting increasingly desperate, increasingly frustrated. I would give up the whole thing, right? If I didn't see any results in 3 weeks, I would just give up, because I was so just convinced nothing was going to work. And so at 37, I was still wearing maternity clothes 2 years after having my second child. And I was just going on about my business as usual. And one night I was opening up the freezer, reaching for my pint of ice cream every night and my wine and my Grey Goose cocktail. And I started having severe chest pains. And so because heart disease runs in my family, I was convinced I was having a heart attack. And so I rushed to ER, and they kept me there overnight. They did all the tests, and they said, here's a Xanax, go home, you had a panic attack. And so that got me really mad and ashamed and embarrassed and all the things. And I was like, oh, this is the thing, right? This fluke panic attack. Like, who the heck has panic attacks? So I ignored it, kept on going in the same way. So I would, most likely, I would drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine every night. I then would switch over to Grey Goose on the rocks with a lime, a basil, and mint. That was my drink. And then 1 of each was not enough anymore. I eventually got to 2 or 3. Definitely started becoming alcoholized. That also runs in my family. And true alcoholism is genetic. So I knew that. And I was noticing that it was happening. So, I would numb with food as well. A lot of Nutella jars, ice cream, brownies, cookies, chocolate mousse cake, all these things. And the weight just kept getting worse and worse. And then I had another ER episode. And this time I was sure it was a heart attack. There's no way this is not a heart attack. Ran to ER, same thing. Here's the Xanax, go home. And, maybe you should try and lose some weight. You might be a little overweight. And that's how it all began for me. I was 37. I luckily found a coach who helped me understand that I had an emotional eating problem, an addiction problem. I didn't know how to eat properly as far as balancing my meals throughout the day. My blood sugar was all over the place. So everything was in chaos. And on top of that, unbeknownst to me, okay, at the age of 37, I had entered perimenopause.
Wow. So you were early. Like, that's on the very early side. It was like a perfect storm going on a little bit for you. And I love that. I mean, I don't love, that's the wrong word, but I'm happy that you said, like, I didn't know how to eat. Because as I've been coaching and working with women in my own experience, so few of us know how to eat. We've only been taught how to diet, like all the diets you said, which don't really tell you why you need to do something. They just tell you, do this and you'll be successful. And we know now diets, they don't work. And you think everyone's being successful because you're seeing these before and afters, which are 1 second in the timeline of a person's life. And it makes you feel horrible about yourself, which just continues the cycle on and on again. So I know the reason you've come on today is you have 5 things you did to start changing the trajectory of your health. What were they?
Well, the number one thing was really address addiction. And so when you are an addict, and that's not a personality flaw, it's just the way people cope with trauma in their past. And when you are an addict, you could be addicted to anything, right? So you could start reaching for alcohol, it could be food, nicotine, certain behaviors, you name it, right? Even the gym is an addiction.
Anything you feel you have to do, right? Yes.
Yes, anything that increases your dopamine, it gives you an escape, essentially, from feeling whatever it is that you're trying to avoid. So the first step for me personally, and with working with women, I have seen this again and again, is really becoming aware of these addictive patterns. Now, it may not be drugs or alcohol, it may not be something that you need to go to rehab for, but it could be sugar. Right. And so we undermine the fact that many of us are addicted to processed foods and sugar. The reason is because those foods are created and they're manufactured with that knowledge by the manufacturer that they need to be addictive, or they want them to be addictive so they can sell more of them. And so unbeknownst to us, we're becoming addicted to high fructose syrup and all of those types of sugars that are not even real sugar at the end of the day. So becoming aware of your pattern of behavior, right? So that was number one. Number two was really paying attention to my nervous system, because if I was dysregulated, I would immediately be looking for a way to bring myself back to center, right? Bring myself back to a neutral place. And that behavior that I learned over time and my brain was reaching for was some type of substance would get me there, right? So alcohol, sugar, ice cream, cookies, chocolate, whatever, nicotine, right?
When you say you were dysregulated, what were you feeling? Because I think some women maybe think it's such a broad spectrum, but can you name the emotions you were feeling when you were dysregulated?
Yeah, so every person is a little bit different, but generally there are signs. Getting extremely overwhelmed over small things that shouldn't overwhelm you. Getting startled really easily. That's another interesting one. Not being able to sleep well. So having a lot of anxiety, even when you wake up, you're full of anxiety for no particular reason other than your body just feels dysregulated. Now, being starved, right? So starving yourself and being on an extremely restrictive diet will dysregulate your nervous system because it sees it as a flight or fight type of response that you're not getting the nutrition that you need. And it's overlooked. It's so overlooked.
Well, we don't associate our nutrition with our mental and emotional health as much as they are connected. I know I've had clients who talk about, they are stressed and they are legitimately stressed because of work, family situations, all the things. And then we look at their nutrition and they're definitely on the lower side of their intake. The balance is off. Carbs of all kinds, not just vegetables, are kind of missing. And I keep telling them carbs will help your stress response. But because of all the dieting messaging we've always gotten, that's where we hit a wall. And it takes some time to trust and go, oh my goodness, I ate more today. I slept better. I woke up actually not feeling, because I think every person, definitely every midlife woman had probably woken up and gone, shoulders are already up, you can't fully breathe. So thank you so much for touching on that nutrition aspect of it.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing when you actually start looking into things, how much nutrition affects you in every possible way. Even the addictive part, right? So even being addicted to nighttime binging has to do with the nutrition that you did not consume throughout the day, right? And your body is looking for fuel essentially to keep functioning. And most of us don't eat enough protein. And so what ends up getting into our mouth is a ton of the carbs you don't want and the fat together.
Not all carbs are created equal. I don't like to demonize any foods, but right, some will eat and right, we'll be hungry a little bit later because they were not nutritionally dense enough to support what our body needed. 100%.
Absolutely. So those are some superficial signs that you might be dysregulated as far as your nervous system, you know, getting into fights really easily or starting arguments really easily for no reason, just being extremely reactive is another indicator. But there's lots of different things that could come up for different people. So, you know, I would say everybody's
Absolutely.
individual.
But thank you for naming some, because I think sometimes if you bring up dysregulation, a word like that sounds very psychological, a lot of people will shy away from it and not realize all the little things in our day that there's a spectrum, and that it's not necessarily we're saying you're bad or you're failing, but you're like, hey, you can use some support here. And some of the things you're going to talk about, we've already touched on nutrition, of course, will support that in a way that's healthy and beneficial for you in the long run.
Absolutely. And then the best way I can describe it is if you think about your nervous system as the fire alarm for your body, or like the security system, right? If we make an analogy with computers, because I'm versed really well in computers. And so if the nervous system is the firewall, the security wall of your body, its job is to detect and control threats to its environment, right? And so when the firewall or the security system is not properly configured, it will think anything is a threat, right? A bird flying by the window, or, you know, a slight drop in the computer, or, you know, you typing on the keyboard, or you even turning on the system, right? Might think that that is a threat. If it's a security system of your house, you know, even you walking around inside of your own home can be considered a threat, right? If it's not properly configured. And so that's the way that I look at the nervous system. Its job is really to identify threats, but when it's not properly maintained or configured, you're going to have a lot of false alarms, and that will constantly keep you in fight or flight.
All right. So you identified addictive behaviors. You started to regulate your nervous system. What else did you do that most women can do? Like, one of the things I always say is healthy doesn't have to be hard. And I guess making some of these changing, obviously dealing with addiction is going to be hard. There is going to be a challenge there. But something like adding more healthy carbs is a simple change. You know what I mean? So what were the other steps you went through?
So I'm going in order of priority here, right?
Yes,
so
100%.
Addictive substance, nervous system, emotional regulation. And these are ongoing things. You're not going to be able to complete them before you start the next step.
I love that because all these things, even if I think we're going to get to fitness, we're going to talk more about the food you eat, are all ongoing things. And I think when we talk about, you're like, I didn't feel better. You touched on earlier, when you kind of started getting things working in your direction, you talked about like, I wasn't seeing results in 3 weeks. And you're like, no one really sees results in 3 weeks, but we've been sold a 3-week, a 6-week, a 30-day thing that this is forever now. And we have to make that mindset shift that you will work out consistently for the rest of your life. You will eat healthy, not until because like you said, you lost 80 pounds, did you? Mm-hmm. 80 pounds, like you didn't just stop doing those behaviors. Like for the rest of your life, you are eating in a balanced plate to support everything.
That's right.
Yes, please. I feel like I repeat that constantly, but it's something even I still have to hear, like for the rest of your life. You will go to the gym for the rest of your life. And,
yes,
seeing it as a good thing. There's no end until there is the end.
Yes. And then the third thing is nutrition. So that highest priority, I would say nutrition is more important than even going to the gym, etc. And so getting a whole, like wrapping your arms around this whole idea of nutrition, which is a massive subject. And I used to joke around when I started, like, I need a PhD to figure this stuff out. So just giving yourself that grace, that space, that dignity to learn these things at your pace so that you don't overwhelm yourself even more. Sleep is the fourth. Because if your sleep gets messed up, all the other things are out the window. Or just paying attention, getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night consistently, find ways to troubleshoot that. So there's a lot of different things out there. You know, you could take magnesium, there's tons of CBD, CBN types of products out there that you can take. There's even a really great hot chocolate with magnesium and CBD and mushrooms out there on the market that is fantastic. I recommend that to all of my clients. You know, try different things in order to hit those 7 to 8 hours.
Right. And I think this is one of the biggest things that keeps us from falling asleep at night. I've been trying very much to put the phone down, you know, watching screens and stuff. But you're right. Sleep is one of our master metabolic regulators, and it's so often left out of the conversation. So I'm so glad you're touching on it today, because it's the one I feel a lot of women go to food, which means severely restricting. They start upping their workouts to an insane degree, and that's all they do, and not realizing that all these other things you're touching on are a huge part of the puzzle.
Yeah, and they're all codependent, right? So if your sleep is off, you're going to wake up with anxiety. You're not going to have energy. You're going to be dysregulated, and then you're going to reach for the sugar, the pizza, the whatever the thing is that you said you didn't want to be binging on. So the binges I noticed were more frequent when I didn't sleep well, when I was dysregulated, and of course alcohol does not help you sleep well. So all of them commingle, right? And so sleep would be the fourth item to start paying attention to. And then resistance training. Okay. I'm sorry, ladies, but that's the thing that's actually going to change your body shape.
I'm not sorry, ladies. Like, do it. It will change your life. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And having more muscle mass will regulate your hormones during perimenopause. It's going to help you regulate your nervous system. Okay. Yeah. It's going to help you sleep better. It's going to create a sense of well-being. And when I say resistance training, I mean true resistance training with progressive overload. I don't mean yoga. So yoga is amazing, but I would use it to regulate your nervous system. I would use it for mobility and stability type of work, which could be your warm-ups or your cool-downs, things like that. I do not mean Pilates. I love Pilates for intra-abdominal core strength and also to regulate nervous system. So add those in, but don't stop there, right? And so true resistance training with progressive overload means that you start where you're at, right? So let's say it's day one and you can only do 10 body weight squats. Then that's what you do. If it means you can only do 4, then that's what you do. You do 4 reps of body weight squats, or maybe chair squats, right? Or, whatever the variation is. If you have a good coach, they will help you and they will give you the type of routine that meets you where you're at. But then little by little, every week or every month, you start to add a little bit more of a challenge to each one of the movements. And then over time, your strength builds, your lean muscle tissue starts to show up, and you start to see your shape underneath the body fat that you're losing at the same time through the nutrition, not the cardio.
I know.
Right? And you start to get more and more motivation, right? So taking action is going to build that momentum. It's going to make you motivated, because in the beginning, none of us are motivated to do this. I cried every single day. I had to do this.
I literally say to my clients, because we've been talking a lot about motivation, and I'm like, it doesn't exist. I mean, you might feel it. I go, maybe my first waking thought every morning is, I don't think I want to work out today. I think I'm too tired. And like, give it 2 minutes. I'm like, you're going to be fine and you're going to go. But right. And a body in motion stays in motion. And when you realize that you're doing this for not only today, for your health today, but your health in 5 years, 10 years, decades to come, that gets your butt into the gym or to yoga or to what, And I love what you just said was that there's nothing wrong with yoga. There's nothing wrong with Pilates. Every form of movement has its place. We just have to get better at realizing what each does for us, because you're not going to be putting on lean muscle mass to the degree you might need in a yoga class. Just like in the gym, you're not going to probably get more flexible lifting the head. You know what I mean? A little bit of everything goes a long way.
I tell my clients that yoga and resistance training are like the yin and the yang. You need both.
Yeah, you do. As I got off the couch yesterday and went, oh, my back's tight. I'm like, well, you don't do your mobility workouts. You're doing your heavy lifting in the gym. We definitely need them all. When you started making changes, where did you start? Did you do all of them at once? Because I find obviously you started with the most important. You started with the addictive tendencies. You went to your emotional dysregulation. When it came to nutrition, was it automatically perfect nutrition, perfect workouts?
Good Lord. No. I started with the actions that I could take. So I knew I had to stop drinking, and the sugar addiction took care of itself because I started counting macros. What did work for me, none of the previous diets worked for me. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly why. There's one reason, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, that these things don't work. Diets do not work for one reason. On day one, you're put into severe caloric restriction. So you read some book, you get some plan. It says eat 3 apples and a celery juice every day, and you're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Well, let's really look at this, okay? How much were you eating per day on average the last year? 3,000 calories?
Most people don't know. And it's probably less than they think.
Or more, or way more.
Right.
So it's either way less or way more. So depending on where the spectrum is, right? So if you're on average eating 600 calories a day and somebody says, okay, start eating 500 calories a day, you're not losing any weight. Yes, nothing's going to happen, right? Because in order for you to lose more weight, you have to be in a much bigger deficit, but there's no room. You've backed yourself into a corner. Your metabolism's tanked. You need to go into a reverse diet. You need to increase your calories slowly. So that's one case study. The other case study is, I don't really eat much. I just have 2 coffees by 2 p.m. and then I have a snack and then, I have dinner. And then you go through counting those calories and there's 2,000 calorie dinner at night because you're starving and you ate all of that at once when you got home after work, after taking care of your kids. And maybe it's even more than that. Maybe it's a 3,000 calorie dinner. So now you're looking at 3,500 calories on average per day. And when you start a diet, all of a sudden they're cutting that in probably down to 1,000, maybe, if it's one of those extreme diets.
Which is low, right? Of course you're going to drop. Yeah,
exactly. But your body is going to go into shock, right? And it's going to be very hard. You're not going to be able to maintain that. And in my opinion, that is the reason why. Those are the 2 reasons why you're either on one side or the other of these examples. The diets don't work because it's not sustainable, and they cut your calories too harshly, too quickly. So what I ended up learning, and the reason is, from everything I've seen, is that we want results quickly, right? We start that diet and we're 2 weeks in and it's oh my God, I didn't lose 10 pounds yet. What is going on? I need this to happen now, right?
Right. Because we've messaged so hard that that's possible and doable and that's forever. And we know, those of us who have gotten training and gone through the deprogramming, that 10 pounds a week, oh my God, how bad is sustainable. I love you brought up sustainability, because the thing I talk about with my clients quite a bit is, how do you want to live your, what are you willing to do? What can you do? Because once again, we're talking the long game, and eating, like you said, 3 apples and a celery juice. Is that how you want to live the rest of your life? I don't think anyone would say yes. So when you learn to start out doing how you're going to continue, it becomes sustainable. It becomes successsul.
Oh, this is like such a personal thing for me because I was so brainwashed, and the act of de-brainwashing myself was so mind-blowing to me, because all of a sudden I was eating more volume than I had ever eaten in my entire life. And I was freaking out at my coach because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain more weight. Like, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's making me eat all this food and this is crazy. Guess what? I lost 8 pounds in the first month.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me. When I did my first reverse, when I really found the top end of my maintenance calories, I didn't gain a pound till I was like 400 calories, which was a ton of food, to the point the scale started dropping. And I'm like, for the first time, and I was hungry. The hunger was something I had never felt before, because all of a sudden my metabolism was like, you're feeding me. Thank you. More. More. It was mind blowing. But the quality of the food was nutritionally dense. I'm not going to say it was perfect. There were random cookies and fun foods or more palatable foods in there. But for the most part, you eat a lot when you are focusing on lean proteins, healthy carbs, healthy fats. It's wonderful that it's not a restrictive. We're used to thinking getting healthy has to be restrictive and painful. And then you're like, what? This is healthy? And it opens up your whole world.
It's magical. It's absolute magic. Like, you're in the best kind of Disneyland you can imagine, where you can literally eat whatever it is you like to eat, and not only lose weight, but build muscle. You can have the shape that you want to have. You can have the glutes and the shoulders and the quads, and you can feel really strong and capable and grounded.
And your biomarkers improve. Your sleep improves. That's the first thing. When I started eating more, I started sleeping like a rock. Granted, I was walking and I was working out too, but I attribute it mostly to my food choices. Terry, this has been a wonderful conversation. I am so thrilled you've been on. And what I ask all my guests at the end, because it is a food podcast, we're touching on a lot of stuff. What is your favorite food? What is the meal? If you had a perfect meal, what would it be for you?
Oh my gosh. I love turkey bowls or beef bowls with avocado, sweet potato, maybe some quinoa, some type of a protein. And then here are the options, right? So the base is the same, more or less. I flavor it with chimichurri. So it has one particular taste. Then on another day, I'll flavor it with a sriracha mayo. It'll have a different flavor. Another day, I'll flavor it with tzatziki sauce, and that gives it like a Greek flavor. And so it's generally the same. I eat generally the same types of foods day in and day out throughout the week, but I flavor them differently, and that gives me the variety.
I love that. Flavor. So many people, when they start eating healthy, they start eating bland and boring. And that's the surest way to not be able to. And I love the foods you said. You said, I heard the word potato. I heard quinoa. I heard mayo. Like, there are no bad foods. It's how we use them, how we combine them to, feed your body, fuel your life. Terry, thank you so much for taking this time with us. It was wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Kristin. I really appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you do. Eat the effing food.
Eat it.